We now have David Marit, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture for the government of Saskatchewan. And he is here today to just do a little bit of a year-end review with us, along with all of our other year-end reviews. And so thank you so much for being with us today, David.
Thanks for having me on, Thomas.
David, tell me a little bit, kind of just do a brief summary of what the Ministry of Agriculture did for Saskatchewan this year, and just some major highlights that kind of happened throughout the year that you guys had done.
Well, I mean, obviously it was a pretty good year from the crop side, Thomas. We saw production over, we're seeing estimates of over 36 million metric tons. Obviously we're seeing calf prices strong this fall as well, so we're happy to see that. But probably the big thing that really happened for us in the ministry level was we had all the provincial ag ministers and the federal ag minister here in Saskatchewan this year for our FPT meeting and the signing of the next policy framework agreement, which we did that. And we took all the cabinet ministers out to Ag in Motion to really showcase the technology and what's going on here in Saskatchewan. So for the most part, it was a very busy year, but a pretty good year.
And so tell me a little bit about some of that new technology that you guys saw at Ag in Motion that you showed the other ministers across the province and the federal minister, and a little bit more about those kind of talks and what that's going to mean for agriculture in Saskatchewan.
Right, really what it does mean when we look at the tillage equipment that we're seeing and the new designs and the precision, not only of seed placement, but fertilizer placement. We see new crop varieties through research and development, with the U of S and the Crop Development Center, and with the private and sector investment there as well. But what really it intrigued us too was we saw obviously foreign delegations there as well. We had been on a couple of trade missions, one into the United States. I went into Colorado and Minnesota early this summer. And then in October, we had a trade mission to Mexico as well to really showcase exactly what we do at Ag in Motion with the new technologies and what's happening here in Saskatchewan and in the prairies, but I'll say predominantly Saskatchewan, with minimum till and continuous cropping, and crop rotations is all part of that.
And earlier this year, I talked to you a little bit about some of the programs that you guys were running in terms of making sure that people had crop insurance and whatnot and stuff like that. How were those programs running this year? Was certainly, as you mentioned, a better year for crop producers and cattle producers and just producers in general. But how were those options used by a lot of producers this year in the ag sector? And
they were actually, we saw a pretty good increase in both the crop insurance side and even on the livestock forage insurance as well. We saw, over 800,000 more acres go into the forage insurance program. We saw well over 2 million acres increase in the crop insurance side as well. So when you see those kind of increases, it leads me to believe probably two things. Farmers and ranchers are looking at mitigating their risk as, and more probably concerned about weather issues this year. But it also speaks to me of that we have some pretty good programs in place that really, farmers are working with their financial institutions, with their accountants, and saying, does this make sense for me to be in? And we're seeing some changes in that. Obviously, we're going to see changes next year in ag stability as well with the new agreement where we're going to 80% coverage. But probably one of the biggest things, the hurdles we got rid of, was the 70% in the reference margin limit, which we eliminated back to a couple of years as well.
Then finally, David, what is the Ministry of Agriculture looking to do kind of going into next year? Any new programs, or just kind of trying to make sure that we have as successful of a year with your guys' programs and hopefully helping all the producers have a good year once again going into 2023?
Right. And what we're looking at right now is really, trying to finalize the next policy framework agreement. And then my ministry team will start looking at the bilateral agreements with Saskatchewan and the federal government on some of what we call, strategic areas where we want to be, some strategic initiatives, and look at program funding around that, whether we will enhance the programs or whether we'll add new things to the programs. But for the most part, we're looking, forward to a pretty good year. Obviously, the role in the ministry as well is to assist the farmers and ranchers in the programs, and we also hear from our stakeholders on, maybe some things we're missing or things we could add to it. And those meetings have been ongoing really for most of the fall, and will probably continue some in the new year as well. But one thing we will be doing here at my office is we'll be really focusing on trade. We'll be looking at is there opportunities for foreign companies to come and look at what we're doing here. We're already seeing some of that, and we'll continue to grow in that. But we will continue to tell our story about sustainable agriculture and what's going on here in the province of Saskatchewan. We'll continue to tell that globally.
Thank you so much for all the information, David, and we hope that you and the Agriculture Ministry, as well as all of our producers across Saskatchewan, have a great end of the next year, as well as an end of the year.
Thank you so much, Thomas. And I'd just like to wish you and your family and everybody out there a very safe and happy holiday season, and Merry Christmas and all the best in 2023.